today we've got Josh from the beautiful mistake. Josh, super excited to chat. I want to just first intro, just so you kind of are aware of this, Josh. I've been a beautiful mistake fan for it's 2024. I have probably been a fan since like at least 2006, maybe 2007. So I was kind of late in the game. I mean, I'm 30 years old now, so I was a little late in the game,
You're
but I was
literally the
also
first
young.
band he ever heard.
Almost. I mean, I was probably like 12 or 13 years old. So I was pretty young still when I first heard about The Beautiful Mistake. But I was one of those people that, like, when I found out about like Tooth and Nail, I had to listen to every Tooth and Nail band. When I
Yeah.
learned about like Floodgate Records, I had to listen to every Floodgate Records band. When I found out about the Militia Group, I had to listen to every Militia Group band. And that's when I found out about Beautiful Mistake. I was like, oh, like they had an album or an EP with Floodgates or with Militia Group. So I'm like, of course I have to listen to this band. And then immediately was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then it was around that time that I think you guys had like first broken up. And I was like, well, this is a great band, but they're done now. So, well, whatever, that is what it is. But that's when I first found out about the beautiful mistake. It was like one of those kind of bands, and maybe you've had one of these bands in your own life, Josh, where you find out about them when they have already broken up, and that
Yeah.
was basically my experience with Beautiful Mistake. But I've been listening to you guys for a very, very, very long time, and have just loved you guys since. Number 4 years ago now, when you guys released the EP, was one of my favorite EPs of the year. It was definitely some of my favorite music of 2020. In the middle of the pandemic, it was just like, oh god, a breath of fresh air. So anyway, been a big fan for a while. So excited to chat more about Beautiful Mistake with you. But before we get into all of that, how are you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing well. I had a long day at work and I was looking forward to chatting with two of you. And yeah, I'm always really grateful to be able to do these. I don't take them for granted. And you know, all of us in the band, we don't have delusions of grandeur. We're able to look back at what we did, in the 2000s and be really thankful for that and be very proud of what we did. But we also know that we're able to do these kind of things now because we did that back then. And
Mm.
it's really humbling and it's always really special. Like I don't take it for granted at all. So I was really looking forward to chatting, and I always like talking about music and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think about it, like we were just talking about, being a South Dakota, like you grew up in Minnesota, Josh, and Cullen and I grew up in South Dakota, and you were talking about, driving through South Dakota recently. Growing up in South Dakota, there is almost no level of grandeur to it. Like it's so middle of like you go to school, you graduate school, you might go on to college if you go to college, and then you just you get you find a spouse and you have your 2.5 kids and your white picket fence, and like that is life. That's life for 80 years until you die. And so there's like no level of like you do this cool thing in your 20s or your 30s or whatever. And I like think and like I had that experience growing up in South Dakota. Like my parents are like the most prototypical kind of Midwestern parents ever. And I often think back to, like, when my dad would have been your age, when you guys were doing Beautiful Mistake, and I'm like, he doesn't like, he can yeah, certainly has memories of when he was, like, in his 20s and early 30s, but he has, like, no level of, like, "Wow, I was, like, doing this, like, really cool thing, and, like, nobody else my age was, like, doing that, or, like, nobody else I knew was doing that." Like, my dad doesn't have any of that, and, like, obviously, he's lived a very happy and great life, but it's so cool that, like, there is a whole group of people that we interview all the time that, like, for their 20s and 30s, for a certain time of their life, they get to say even when they're in their 50s, they get to say, "Yeah, like, 20 years ago, I was doing this thing," and most other people in their life will never be able to say that. Like, that's pretty cool. Whereas where everything else that my dad has experienced in his 20s and 30s, pretty much everyone else in Midwest South Dakota also experienced. And you guys get to say like, "Hey, I was in this band and like we did this thing and we had some music on these TV shows," and like that's a cool thing. Like not many other people get to say that. That's really cool.
And it's funny because I was talking to somebody at work today, and they were like, "Who did you tour with?" So I started naming people that we had toured with. I usually start with probably ones that they might know
Right.
instead of getting too obscure. Like if I say 238, they're not going to know, most likely. But if I say Fallout Boy, they're probably. And
Right.
so I started listing bands, and are you kidding? Are you serious? My gosh, I used to go to Hot Topic and buy. So it is really cool. Like we got to experience something that most people never have and never will.
Right.
And in a time where it was becoming popular, and in a time when our music was more accepted, and we were part of like a scene, and it was just a really cool times. Excuse me. But yeah, I look back at it with fondness. A lot of hard work, a lot of ups and downs,
Yeah.
a lot of pain. It was definitely a really cool experience.
Of
Yeah.
course.
It has to feel like, you know, I don't want to use the term legacy because I mean, you guys came out with a record 4 years ago that was absolutely killer as well. Um, but do you feel like it's a legacy that you wear with pride everywhere you go?
Yeah, I think so. I think for us, I think the EP was really fun for us to put out in 2020.
Yeah.
We went into that with no expectations and just to see if we could write some new songs. There was still some chemistry there, and it ended up being something that we were really proud of. And so we jokingly would say, "Oh yeah, we still have gas left in the tank. We've still got it. Whatever level that means, we've still got it." But no, I think we're proud of what we did, and we're proud of what we're still doing. And we were never the biggest band. We were never the most popular band. We were never the band that blew up, but we were a part of that scene, and those
Yeah.
bands were our peers. And I mean, the joke was that if you opened up for us, you probably were going to get huge.
It's
Um,
You're like, what's the what is it that like never the bride, always the bridesmaid kind of thing?
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I don't know if we were even like in that high in the wedding party, if you're gonna use that analogy. Maybe we
It's
were
like,
like our
oh,
girl, maybe.
oh yeah, always the usher, never the bridesmaid.
Totally. That's a better one. Or like valet. Always the valet at the wedding venue,
We could never
never
quite
the
get in the
bride.
building, never quite get in the
Exactly.
church.
Always the
Yeah.
caterer, never the groom.
Totally. Totally. That's us. So yeah, I mean, there's some nostalgia there, and there's a lot of history there, but it's cool. We're really very thankful that,
Yeah.
we're able to do now the things that we do and get asked to do things now because of what we did before. And I don't have any problem with that because I think none of us do. We're all really proud of what we did.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that you weren't necessarily ever the most popular band. You never had like this big like blow up moment necessarily, but it's interesting because whenever I've shown you to friends of mine, most of my friends, they fall into other categories of music, but a lot of people, they know like 30 Seconds to Mars, for instance, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say something along the lines of like, imagine if 30 Seconds to Mars was just a little bit better. That's the beautiful mistake. And then I'll show them,
Well, the cult aspect of it all, right? Like there's
well,
no
yeah,
cult behavior from us. Okay, cool.
that's exactly what I was also going to say looks, but you can take it whatever direction you want.
We're easy on the eyes. I can tell you that.
No, but then as soon as they listen, they're like, "Oh, I get exactly what you mean." And then I have some other friends who are like, they're into like 90s emo. I'd be like, "Well, imagine some of your favorite 90s emo bands. Let's say like Sunny Day Real Estate. Just imagine that, just slightly updated." And then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, why didn't this band blow up?" So from your perspective, why do you think that it never necessarily like took off to that like mega level like some of the peers that you were surrounded by did?
I think there's a couple things. we put out our second record and then 3 guys from the band quit. And we were done with Militia, and I decided to keep going on. I got new people to be in the band, and we kept touring. We did multiple tours after that and put another EP after that. But the momentum just kind of dropped completely, and it was a building back process. So I also don't think our second record was as well received as Light a Match was. And I think we went into that record thinking, oh, we want to sound more mature. We need to like not scream as much. And I think we may have betrayed some of our
Some of the
true
steam you already built.
roots.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think in a lot of ways, we did kind of what we wanted to do. There was no one putting pressure on us, but we kind of sacrificed some of what made us special, I think, with not including a lot of the more hardcore elements to it. So, you don't realize it at the time. You think that you're going to put out something and everyone's just going to go crazy for it. And you're going to get huge and get signed to a major. And I mean, we all thought.
Yeah.
Man. And what's interesting is like, we've talked to so many bands now, and I think there always has been, especially the last like 20, 30 years, there generally is this like pressure to kind of like make a sound that's going to be more accessible than like what maybe was initially popular, just because you're kind of like, what if like, okay, this first album or this second album was really popular, but like, what if we like dial it in a way where we're going to make it more accessible, and that could like, now we're going to be the next Fall Out Boy or whatever. Like what that has always been like the attempt. And unless you're Fall Out Boy, almost no other band can do that. Like it's almost where it's like you actually got to just stay true to your roots, and that will be the way to success. And it's interesting, there is that temptation, and that's to say like, here's what the funny thing is, like I do think I actually love that second album more than the first album. And also I hear that is like generally maybe a temptation or like a pressure that bands have experienced. And that to me is really interesting, because like, unless you've got that formula ready to go, like you're going to be Fall Out Boy, it's really hard to like actually follow that level of success in that way. Whereas maybe actually the better route is to just like stick to your guns and know like what you're really good at. And
Yeah.
again, I'm not trying to be like I love Beautiful Mistake in any way. Like first album, second album, again, I love the second album more, but like it's all great. And also like, that's something I've heard like from multiple other bands.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you look at, I look at bands like Thrice, and their fans made the jump with them because
Right.
it was so good what they were putting, and consistently every record a little different, going from, their first one, which is a very like Orange County, like metal punk
Yeah.
record,
Just hardcore.
to what they became, same with Thursday. Thursday is one of those bands that just every record, they didn't maybe make the artistic jump that Thrice did with some of their music, but every record is just fantastic and really high level. So much respect for those bands that can keep kind of.
Well, and those
pushing
bands too, and you mentioned earlier, like you had 3 guys that left, and it just lost a lot. The band lost a lot of momentum.
Yeah,
Thrice has had the same 4 guys in the band
the whole time.
The whole time. Thursday, for the most part, has almost had all of those guys a part of Thursday since the very beginning. Like, there is something to be said about like a group of members that are just like, we're committed to this through and through. And you get bands like Thrice where now they've been a band for over 25 years, going on to 30 years now, and they've been able to like, each one of those 4 guys, they're consistent of like, we've got a vision, we know what, like, and there's a reason why they've been where they're at. And I'm sure like you probably could say the same thing about Thursday as well, but there's just something about the consistency that just really is so helpful.
I look at that with Emery, look at that with Amber Lynn. There's these bands there's these bands that have just basically had the same lineup, relatively the same lineup
Yeah.
for most of their career. And I think it speaks a lot to, I think the music reflects that. And
Mhm.
I think there's something in that weird, I don't even know how to say it, like that weird that is band member chemistry and how that translates to the fan. But I see that and I'm like, oh, of course. Like that's a huge part of it. You know? The Emery dudes, I mean, it's four of them have been in the band forever, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Four. Yeah, there's
Yeah. Yeah, I
four of them
think
that have
4 of
been.
them.
4 and then the
Yeah.
couple touring members. Yeah.
Yeah. But, same with Amber Lynn. Like, I mean, Christian was the last new member. And that was
Yeah.
how many years ago? Like 2006?
2006 or 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
even actually,
no.
maybe even 2005 or so. You're right.
Yeah, after acceptance. I think he was doing that and acceptance. So
Yeah.
no, that's a good point.
Man.
That's a
So,
huge part of it.
like reflecting back on that beautiful mistake, is there regrets along with that, or what caused the change in lineup and stuff like that?
You know, we were not getting along. I think we wanted different things. I think, some of the band members at the time, this is 2004. I think some of the band members wanted to kind of go more mainstream.
Sure.
Others didn't. We had family pressure. We had relationship pressure. We were struggling with money. I think there were a lot of things that put pressure on the dynamic. And so, you know, Sean and Josh quit first. And it was just like, hey, we want to just, we're just not into this anymore. We want to have like normal lives. And then a couple weeks later, John, our bass player, quit. And I was pretty pissed about it at the time. It's really easy to, and then,
100%. Yeah.
especially after going through therapy and like working on myself and then mending relationships with them in like 2017 ish, all of us mending relationships with each other. It's easy to look back on it and be able to dissect it, right?
Right.
But no, I was pissed. I was like, screw these guys. I just want to do music. I don't want to do anything else with my life. All I want to do is tour records,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna do it. And they can. I mean, that was part of. Did I love the music? Yes. Did I believe in it? 100%.
Yeah.
There was a huge part of me that was like, these guys can go to hell for bailing on me. And I'm going to show them that I could do it. And there was a huge ego driver, because I did it.
You were driven. You were driven.
Yeah.
You probably saw what was going on around you and you said, this is about to pop off, guys. Like, what the hell? Why are you jumping ship at this moment?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And, we worked up to a point. I had worked it back up to a point by the mid 2005 where we had another deal ready to go.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen, which is a good thing in looking back at it. But
Right.
yeah, we had a lot of pressure and it was just, I think we stopped talking and we stopped being friends. And we stopped working things out. That like innocence when you start vanished.
Yeah.
It is one of those things where it's just like it feels like it's so the line between being the beautiful mistake and thrice, it's like so fine. Like there's just one little thing that could have happened differently, and you guys,
Sure.
could have had the same career as thrice, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like so it's so close, it's so there. It's just that fine little line, and things just go a different way. But that's not to say again that like there is a whole group of fans of the beautiful mistake that have obviously loved you guys throughout the years.
Yeah.
And me being one of them, it's just it's one of those things where you still get those fans, and I'm sure you cherish
Yeah.
that. And also, it's like one of those things where I can imagine, like, just being a human, like you're probably like, God, we could have been Thrice, we could have been one of those bands,
Sure.
it could have
Well,
been,
I wouldn't go that far.
who
I
knows?
think,
Maybe you could, maybe you could have been Fall Out Boy, but who knows, right? But like the
yeah,
the line between, like, I mean, you were touring with those bands, like what they were like, you know what the music you were making, like it. It wasn't as if like you were completely in a different planet. Like you guys were there, like, you were close, and it's like just a few little things could have gone a different way, and you could have been one of those.
yeah.
Anyways,
Okay, I need to turn on lights. The sun has set.
it is that
Yeah,
time
you're
of
good.
year
It's been dark here for about 2 hours, so
to Colorado.
That's better,
That
right?
looks way better.
yeah, way better. Yeah, you look great now.
Awesome.
You look
So,
great before too, but now you're just vibrating with
Yeah.
just life.
Way better looking than the Undertaking. My goodness,
You,
we like it when it's dark when we interview the Austin.
you don't want to see those dudes. You can't
No, of course
unsee Austin.
Yeah,
That's
that's a great way to describe it. You can't. That's a dude you can't unsee.
I told them that if they don't we're putting the fun in funeral psalms on a shirt, that they're doing something wrong, and they never did it. So that's probably why they're not as successful as they are, as they should be. Is what I said.
The difference between Every Time I Die and the fine line, and it really could have just been one T-shirt, and that's all it could have been. But
That's,
you
that's
know
all
what?
you would have needed.
Now the Undertaking is having to open for the beautiful Mistake, and they could have been Every Time I Die.
yeah. I mean, they're gonna have to just eat a steady diet of expired scene points that night. They're they're opening for us.
Expired scene points.
Yep.
That was
All right.
I love it.
I like that.
No, I really I appreciate the like honesty, because again, we've interviewed a number of different bands, and like have that kind of like similar story where it's like, oh God, like something really could have been here, and it just it ended earlier maybe than you would have liked, and when earlier than fans would have liked too. And it's just one of those things where that to me is always an interesting story. Like when it feels like a band was on the precipice of something they could have been, with all of their peers, especially knowing the bands that you guys were touring with. And it's just like for it to not happen in that way, it's like always one of those things of like, I love the what if stories, and it feels like that kind of what if.
Sure. I mean, I think I can honestly say though, and I'm gonna speak for my bandmates too. Like, we wouldn't be here today had we wouldn't have put out the EP that we're really, really, really proud of in 2020 had we kept going.
Right.
We might not even, some of us might not even be here if we had kept going. So
Right.
I'm a firm believer in providence and things happening for a reason. And, you ending up where you are because of your past experiences. And I think I think when it paused, because we never officially broke up, which is another joke, is that there was never a like beautiful mistake breaks up. It's just they kind of just faded into the ether. And there was never a like, hey, thanks for being fans. Hey, this is our last show. Nothing. So technically we never broke up. No, I think, because things happened the way they did, we can look at 2020 and how we got back together and how we became friends again and started writing music together. That means so much more to us, and is so precious to us, that process and how that came out. We are happy that things worked out the way they did because we got to do that. And we have that as a part of our collective history now. And we can go from a spot that is positive instead of potentially what if we have stayed together and gotten big and lost our marbles,
Right.
Right. It's interesting.
Outside of the music stuff, as much as you're able to, what is it like to become friends with somebody again? Because I've never really, I'll be honest,
question.
I don't know if I've really experienced that much where like I was friends with somebody for a while, maybe had like maybe some sort of big difference for them for years, and then like had to relearn how to become friends with that person. Like, I just don't think I've really ever had that experience in life.
Yeah.
And I'm sure maybe at some point that will happen in my life. I just haven't had enough of life experience where that has happened. But I'm
Mason,
just
you
like,
burned too many bridges. That's never
it's
going to
just so
happen.
many bridges. But I'd love to know, like, maybe even outside of the music stuff, and maybe obviously I would imagine like with Beautiful Mistake, a lot of the music is what brings you guys together. But yeah, I'd love to know just like what is it like to almost for 15, 20 years, or yeah, 15 years, not be friends with somebody, and then now like, okay, like let's try to figure out how to be friends again. Like, what is that experience like?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the work that you do yourself. You can't
Mm,
control
Right.
anybody else's reactions to you. You can't
right.
control how they think about you or anything. You're only responsible for you. And I think that time that was spent, I knew those guys intimately. We were stuck in a van or a bus together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They were my best friends. They were my family,
Hmm.
basically. And when you don't have that, or there's anger or resentment, you've got to deal with that stuff, Like I burn bridges. I've burned so many bridges in my life. The one thing when I actually got serious about working on myself and getting help to figure out what my problems were emotionally and kind of work through issues I had, it's okay. I need to focus on what I can control. And I need to figure out how to, be more emotionally mature and, look at problems and not run away from it and not hold grudges. Like for me, it was, and I'm not implying that I'm ancient, but like getting older, having some, you know, highs and lows with life. I went through a divorce in 2000, in like 9 years ago. And I I lost a bunch of friends when that happened. I hadn't been tight with any of the guys in the band. I hadn't really talked to them much at all. And as I came out of that, I'm like, I need to make things right with people. I'm tired of living with this resentment and this chip on my shoulder. And so that's where it started for me. And I think all of us had kind of done the work separately to kind of figure out where we needed to be in a place that was receptive forgiveness and receptive of people, wanting to make things right.
Mm,
And life is better when when you've wronged someone or they've wronged you to forgive or to apologize.
mhm, mhm.
And do I still miss the mark with that? Sure, I do. But for the five of us, or it was that.
Mhm.
And let's get things right with each other. If we make music, I don't really care. And when we were doing that, it wasn't really about like, oh, we'll just keep doing it. It was more about let's just make things right with each other first and see if we can patch this up.
Mhm.
It is
So
kind of
you're
interesting.
so what you're saying is you put the emo in emotional maturity?
Totally. Totally.
It is kind of interesting because when you generally when you're in a band, you're usually a young man
Yeah.
and your emotions are running wild. You got these hormonal situations still going on. Your brain isn't fully developed, all that stuff.
No.
And it would be great to live life if you had, the vision, the retrospective that would come now, right?
Yeah.
But but now you're here. You're much healthier than you were before. Your friendships are healthier. Your relationships in general are healthier than they were before. Mason and I were actually talking before, just a little bit ago, that we could probably stand about 72 hours together before, like, there would probably be some, like, sort of, like, real, like, conflict between us.
Like, we
we're
were
like,
saying, like, if we were on a camping trip for a week, it would, like, be bad. It would not be good for our
yeah,
relationship, and we're like, we are aware of that. Like,
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's healthy.
But that's also something that comes as to 30-year-olds, uh,
Yeah.
as an 18, 19, 20, up to 25-year-old. I mean, that's just not something that you're aware of oftentimes. And I think that there deserves a little bit of empathy for the past. And like you said, you're not like ashamed of that necessarily. You're like, I understand that that's who I was then, but now I am who I am now. And now it's time to look forward and and, and allow myself to be my more true self, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that to be something that has permeated the rest of your life and not just like, with your bandmates and stuff like that? Or is that something that like you feel like so much more full and much more active and engaged with life in general?
Yeah. I would say it wasn't limited to getting my friendships restored with my bandmates. It was
Yeah.
kind of across the board. I don't think it takes a traumatic experience to figure things out, but for
Right.
some people it does, and for me, it was probably divorce and then dealing with family members' deaths that I hadn't
Mm.
dealt with, and it's funny because we look back and when we all get together, it's just ridiculous story after ridiculous story about when we were touring. I mean, we still talk about stuff that goes on today and how are you feeling, where are you at in life, and like we still talk about pertinent things, but there's a part of it that's just, do you remember when we were at Del Taco and we broke the bathroom, like just stupid stuff. And we've all joked about it, like, if man, if we could go back to 2002, just being where we're at now in life, like, if you could
Yeah.
just erase all of the circumstances we were in and put us as developed adults back in, and we'd be unstoppable. Like, we
You'd
would
be
know
thrice.
we would exactly. We would be thrice. Not as good musically, but we would be them. That would be our bar. But yeah, we would go back
I
and
would
just
even say that's
dominate.
arguable. I would even say that part's arguable, but
Sure. We would dominate though, because we would understand all those dynamics that 18, 19, 20-year-olds are dealing with.
yeah.
And we would understand the business side of it, and we understand the interpersonal dynamics. We would be unstoppable. But that isn't the case. And now we're in our 40s and still writing bangers. That's what we do. So,
You gotta love it, right? No, it's interesting
yeah.
because I don't know. I think perspective lends so much wisdom to people. That's literally what wisdom is perspective, really. Uh, I spent much of my life as an athlete. I did Division I college athletics and everything like that.
Yes.
And as soon as I started coaching more as like a relatively full-time gig, I'm like, oh, if I only fucking knew what I know now as a coach, I would have been so much better as an athlete. And I think that there's that idea of of personal development that can really expand itself and take on a life of its own if you can get that perspective.
And that's
And
when
if
you
you can
become
continue
Uncle
to
Rico, right?
create, say that again.
That's when you become Uncle Rico. You're like, God, if I would have
I
just,
bet you I could throw a football over them mountains.
if I,
over
now,
there.
no, knowing what I know now, I could throw that ball over them mountains.
Yeah. Throw a
Yeah,
football 40 mile.
that's right.
Yeah.
But like now you can just continue to write, like as you said, bangers. And you have kind of like this luxury as with this creative outlet to be able to continue to create and to make something new with a different perspective, understanding the perspective of the past as well. So how does that go forward now for you in a personal sense, I should say?
You mean with the creative side? Just
Yeah, the
where
creative side of it, like understanding where you've been, how far
Oh,
you've
yeah.
come, the struggles you've been through, and understanding just the perspective of everything that's happened from now to when you were a kiddo. How does that change your perspective in terms of where you want to go in the future?
I think it definitely, I think from a creative perspective, it makes you want to work harder. For me, it's I
Oh,
want to work harder because I know all the stuff that I know, and and I have this ability. I'm
yeah.
I'm not saying great or horrible. I'm just saying matter of factly, like, I have the ability to play guitar, write music, sing. I'm surrounded by people who are as creative as me, and so it's really free in the sense of like, oh, I want to work even harder at this. I want to be better at what I
Yeah.
do because I appreciate it more.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
100% it does.
Yeah.
And I get that vibe from you. So do you think that that's gonna happen? Are you
Yeah.
writing music? Are you writing music right now?
Yeah.
And is there a plan to create more?
Yeah. So we've talked about, so each of us, each of us do music kind of on too. So
Hmm.
Josh, our drummer, plays in Light the Letters, which is from Colorado, and the singer of that band is Dan. He's one of my best friends. Dan was the singer in a band called Ember in the late 90s,
Oh,
emo band. When he left Ember, I started singing and we became the Beautiful Mistake. So I've known them forever, but Josh, our drummer, plays with them and he does production. John's working on an amazing project in Minneapolis where he's doing the screaming. It sounds so good. I've been able to do my own stuff under St. Ballet. And it's just me, everything. And then Josh, our mistake drummer, plays drums and records it, produces it. That's been a lot of fun. But yeah, so right now we're just getting ready for Furnace Fest and the shows come that we have, but we did 5 demos just to kind of see because we all live in different places too. So it's a little challenging, but we did 5 demos and we're kind of passing them around to everyone. And once Furnace Fest is over, we're gonna start tweaking them and getting them dialed, but and seeing if they have potential to be recorded properly. But no, we want to make more music. We want to play shows. There's no expectation. We just we don't have to prove ourselves to anyone.
right.
Mhm.
It's so awesome. I like it. I like our EP. If somebody else connects with it, that's amazing. And I'm not being facetious. Like, that's rad. Very thankful. All of us are very thankful. There's an emotional connection with the music or the lyrics or both.
Yeah.
But if nobody likes it, I like it. Win.
Hell yeah.
You
You gotta
know?
make it for you gotta make it for yourself first.
Yeah, totally. So we're gonna do more stuff. We're excited.
Yeah. I think Mason and I were both pretty excited when the EP came out in 2020. We both thought that it went hard as hell. Like,
Yeah,
just
more than I was ever anticipating.
way more than we ever thought. Yes.
Yeah, we were pissed. We had to get some stuff out. I think.
Yeah, and I think we're very excited to see where this is going to go again. And I think there's a lot of anticipation with it.
Yeah. It'll be heavy. I
Yeah.
can say like we
Just
really
don't make us wait another 10 to 12 years.
No. We're gonna do it. We're really excited, like the being able to play Furnace again and just, all being on the same page with like, hey, this should be fun. Let's prioritize it and just have a good time with it. Feels
Yeah,
good.
I
Love that. Love that. Oh, well, you talked about Furnace Fest. Let's talk more about your set at Furnace Fest. So obviously a couple years ago you guys played. Love to hear kind of more of like where you guys at with your Furnace Fest set. Like, I mean, what can we expect? Like, I mean, it sounds like there could be potentially new music. I don't even know if you're like even in the process of writing. But yeah, I'd love to
Yeah.
know like kind of any sort of like surprises, any things that people should, fans should anticipate for the Furnace Fest set?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say there are going to be some huge surprises. I think we tried to pick songs that really represent us best from each album.
Mm,
So it's going to have a little bit of everything in there. I think we did that in 2021 as well, but I think this one will have a few surprises for people when it comes to what songs we picked. But, we
I
had
do
asked people.
I do want to preface it and just say that Mason and I were both just surprised to see you on the billing in the first place. Like we were excited for it. Like that's surprise enough. So like anything else is just a cherry on top. That's all
right.
we're saying.
We feel the same way. I mean, we could just go and hang out on stage and just chat with people and not play and be stuff because it's Furnace Fest. They, Chad, Mike, Ryan, Johnny, those guys have been really good to us. And what they have done with Furnace Fest is different than any other festival we've ever played. And knowing Chad for so long, we knew him way back in the day, and respecting him and just the attitude and the approach that all of them take when it comes to this, whether it's, how the festivals run or what bands are getting to play and kind of curating that experience. I think they do a really good job of it being very much not a festival that's too cool, where it's not too seen, for lack of a better word. It's very accepting of a whole bunch of different types of music styles.
Yeah.
100%.
They know how to do it. To be included in the last one alongside bands that coalesce. For instance, we recorded Light a Match with Ed Rose, and one of the bands that caused us to want to record with Ed Rose was Coalesce. On the night that we finished Light a Match in Kansas, we went to the Bottleneck in Lawrence and saw a reunited Coalesce. We had bought tickets weeks in advance for that. So to be able to play Furnace and Coalesce is playing, I don't even know what to say. I mean, that's huge for us. Same, getting to see Shai Hulud again, that band.
So
one of the reasons we started Beautiful Mistake is because we were fans of Shai Hulud. Hearts Once Nourished is one of those bands or one of those albums that meant a lot to us. In 2021, Mineral played. Only reason we're a band is because of Mineral, one of the bands. And so it means a lot to us. It's super humbling to be included with a lot of bands that are just really, really meaningful to us, but then also peer bands too. Like we love the Emery dudes. We toured with them. The Juliana Theory, Noise Ratchet. We played our first show with Noise Ratchet in 2000. So, Code 7, just a ripping band, good dudes. Getting to be around people that we're friends with. Dogwood, they're playing. So
we're big friends with Josh. He's one of the most authentic people ever.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, when you talk to Josh, you should ask him about me.
I will. I absolutely will.
We went to high school together.
Oh, did you?
Oh,
what high school was it?
Orange Glen High School in Escondido, California.
What was your mascot? Orange Glen. Mascot.
The Patriot.
The Patriot. All right. The first thing we're gonna say when we talk to Josh is, what was it like being an Orange Glen Patriot?
Yep. We go way back.
And what's your relationship to Josh?
We started Dogwood together.
And he's gonna.
That's not a joke.
No, I know, because we actually had a brief conversation about that as well. Where do you? Okay, before we get going on the rest of that, we've had a lot of Furnace Fest bands on this summer. Okay, the first person that has like really like obviously dove into each of the, like some of the bands that you're really excited not only to see but also just to be around again. This is clearly like something that means a lot. I think to some of the younger bands maybe it doesn't mean as much. They're like, oh, it's just another festival. But this is not just another festival, right? This is it's history in the making, but it's also future in the making. And I think that's why that this festival is such a special thing. And I'm kind of sad that, you know, it's ending at least in its current form. So from that perspective, what do you think is, I don't know how to put this, for your personal part of this legacy of this festival, what are you most excited about?
I think it's just the camaraderie. You know, I think
Yeah.
it's the friendships that we've made over the years and getting to see people and then also celebrate, not only celebrate their music that they've made that's not to us, because we're not just peers or friends. We're also fans.
Right. Yeah.
Not only just celebrating what they've done musically, but like getting to talk with them and reconnect with them, like celebrating the life that they have that's not music or
Right.
music at the time or mom.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that's a really cool part to see, like where people have come, how far people have come from the 20s, and you know, I think we were a band at a special time, and I think a band we kind of grew up with in the scene, we were influenced by Strong Arms, Case, Mineral, Jimmy Eat World, Elliott, Appleseed. You know, we were Coalesce, Casket Lottery. We were influenced by all these bands, and not just a superficial level. It was a deep connection.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to see a lot of these bands again, who are legends, Snapcase, Bane, Coalesce,
The Beautiful
legends.
Mistake.
Yeah. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Seeing those bands get up there and play, it's like just that cap of, yeah, this was a really special era. That music lives on without Furnace Fest, but what a special, it's not a nostalgia fest. It's not
Right.
like going to see, you know, Trickster and LA Guns and, you know, I don't know, Warrant without Janie Lane, which isn't Warrant. It's like going to see those bands at a county fair and it's like 80s night. Like that's nostalgia fest. Like this scene was important before were there and while we were there.
Yeah.
And it continues to resonate with people. I mean, I'm where Bane, they're
You're
legends.
wearing the
Bane's
Bane shirt.
legend, legendary. And people heard them and were inspired to start a band.
Mhm.
Or they heard them and were like, oh my gosh, what onslaught of just positivity and joy
Yeah.
and realness. So I'm a big fan of the Furnace Fest experience.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Cullen and I have talked about this ad nauseum at this point, but Furnace Fest for us has always felt like a family reunion where
Yeah.
it is just like all these different bands, all of these different fans that have known each other for likely many years, and obviously we're all fans of each other. And you just like it's this one moment a year where we get to all come together and you know, kind of again experience it almost like a family reunion where we're just able to be in one place at one time. You don't get a lot of that, but you get this like really interesting mix of people from a variety of different music scenes, from a variety of different generations, and they all come together, and we're all kind of one for 1 week,
Yeah.
for one weekend, and you just don't get that experience very much. I mean, there's bigger festivals that have this kind of music,
Sure.
and you know they're playing in the summers. but there's only really one Furnace Fest where you get like the organizers are at the end of the day, they're true fans. They're not just trying to like make a quick buck from a bunch of music. Like they're just happy to break even. And that's where they're at because at the end of the day, they're just wanting to bring in all of their friends from all of these different bands, all of their friends who are fans, and just bring them together and have this family reunion for like a weekend. Like that's just to me a really really cool experience, and you
Yeah.
just don't really get that anywhere else at any other music festival.
Yeah. And I think you almost even take that one step further from just like a purely fan perspective. It's I don't know about you guys, but like I don't get like a whole bunch of like super emotional like moments throughout my year. Right? Like, yeah, I you have a family and everything like that. You have a job. You have to kind of keep things kind of even keel, right? But I tell you what, when I go see Blindside, for instance, I'm gonna have an emotional moment where I'm just gonna probably break down and just get in touch with my inner self a little bit more than I usually do, and I find that part to be such a freeing experience, and maybe that'll happen during Beautiful Mistake. Who knows? It's something that you don't know when it's going to come on, but I think from a crowd perspective or a fan perspective, it has some of the same feeling. It's that camaraderie of like, hey, I'm safe to feel these feelings right here, right about now. And if I
Yeah.
have some tears streaming down my face because I'm just really in the moment,
Yeah.
it's kind of a beautiful thing,
It was overwhelming in 21 for me. And I'm just speaking for myself. I know my bandmates had similar experiences, but talking to people,
Yeah.
I'd start to cry. I couldn't keep it together. I'd have to step away,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
people are giving you love and, you're a different person than you were back in 2002. And you probably took it for granted back then. And for people to sincerely, share a story about, hey, this got me through this tough time, or hey, I got married to this and we danced to this song or whatever. I was continually losing like the whole weekend, and even just talking to peers, guys I hadn't seen in a long, just totally losing it. I can't keep this together. Like, this isn't emotional. This is heavy in a good way. But it
Yeah.
was heavy.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's kind of funny how we don't experience a lot of those things throughout, the typical year,
Or we don't allow ourselves to experience that.
I think that's a bigger part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but Furnace Fest certainly brings that out of us.
It really does. Yeah.
It does. That's
Love
why
it.
it's special.
It is.
Certainly. Well, we're excited to see you at Furnace Fest, Josh. But before the 5 weeks that we'll see you, let's get into your top 5 most influential albums. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
I'm excited for this. I feel like you're gonna have some very interesting routes you're gonna go here.
Exactly.
No particular
let's-
order.
Yeah,
That's
whatever
If I could
order
do
you
top
want to
10, if I could do top 10 or top 20, I could pop them. I'll do 5. I'll be respectful of the
Good
form.
deal. Good.
But in the
Proud of you.
future, you should allow people some latitude with how many they want to live. I'm
We
kidding.
usually allow some grace for honorable mentions if you want, but keep it to less than 4 if you can.
No particular order and no chronological order. Quicksand Slip.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
That record got me through high school. I was listening to punk at the time. It just, still listening to like The Cure and stuff too. But that record blew my mind. It blows my mind today. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
put it on right now and feel the same feelings of, I can get chills listening to that record, and I love it. Quicksand Slip.
I love
You
it.
t-
Pause,
you-
pause,
you-
for, pause for just 1 second if you can. Mason, how many episodes are we at right now? Roughly 3.
No, we're at like
250?
200.
200. Okay, 200 episodes. We finally have a quicksand reference, and I've been
Yeah.
waiting for
Are
it.
you joking?
Yeah,
I guess we're interviewing the wrong people.
this is the
You-
first time we've had quicksand on the top 5 most influential, and I am here for it. All right.
I mean, we could go down the post-hardcore rabbit hole
You
and
can
have a
go
whole
way-
nother episode.
I will follow you down whatever hole you want if you catch my drift.
Awesome. You too, Joshua Tree. I heard that record as a kid. I could listen to that record. I listened to that record once or twice a week. It continually blows my mind. It is one of the greatest records of all time, in my opinion. And the sonics, everything about it. I live in the high desert. I live near Joshua Tree National Park. Everything about that record speaks to me on so many levels, and I love it.
That's a band that I think a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, they were so influential," when in my 20s or whatever. And like, but they kind of have like stained their reputation based on like some of their later stuff. Uh that's just an interesting band. Like I think probably Weezer's maybe like similar vein where it's like they were so influential for like, Blue Album in particular. And then like their later stuff, it's like, oh, do I really like Weezer? Like, was that really? You almost have to like question yourself. But like U2 kind of feels like one of those bands where like that album, we hear Joshua Tree pretty frequently. And yet they're also like, there is oftentimes this caveat of like, but also like, I don't really like U2's like latest stuff kind of thing.
Once they released everything from No Line on the Horizon, and I'm a super fan. Like I went to 2 shows here in Vegas. I've seen them.
I was just gonna ask if you did that. Yeah,
I'm a mega fan. I love them. No Line on the Horizon came out, and everything since then's been garbage. Hot garbage. I hate it. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't listen to it. I don't support it. But anything before that, I'm pretty cool with. But anything like pre All That You Can't Leave Behind is 100% gold to me. And I would argue all day about those records.
Dos, Tres, 14.
Not really a big fan of that song necessarily.
No, for real. That was actually the song that I'm like, oh, wow. What happened to you two?
Yeah.
All right. You're number 3, though. Let's go Trace.
Smashing Pumpkins, Siamese Dream.
Oh, hell yeah. My man.
Yeah. Still, to this day, another record I could listen to every day. Production on it's amazing. I was in high school when that came, and just it's so big sounding. The songs are amazing. Hummer is one of the greatest songs ever for rock. It's pissed. It's beautiful. I learned how to play octaves because of that. And I still play octaves because of that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to that last argument we just had about, U2 kind of like, kind of waning in the recent years. Smashing Pumpkins might be back. Their new record. The songs I've heard so far,
it's not bad.
It's pretty damn good. They've had some stinkers in the recent years, but man, this new record, it sounded really great so far.
Yeah, there's some good songs on there. 4, Mineral. But I love Power of Failing, and Serenading is my more influential for me. Lyrically, I love that record. It's a beautiful record. So Mineral and Serenading.
Mineral reference too.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of Mineral, but like
this is great.
We should.
We absolutely should.
Yeah. That lyrically, that record just cuts me open.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say about Mineral. Obviously, like the early stuff is great. Aurora might be their best. Like, well, they have, the 2 songs or whatever, but like Aurora, the song itself, probably is their best song, at least in my opinion. I absolutely love that song so much.
Same. There's a bookshelf, you can't see it behind me, but I have the Mineral book with the 7-inch in it. Oh, I love them.
So good.
Okay, I'll go 5, and then may I have an honorable mention?
We'll allow it. We'll allow it.
Yeah.
All right. So Snapcase, Progression Through Unlearning.
Oh, okay. Yes. Little Snapcase. All right.
For hardcore records like that one and Strong Arm, Advent of a Miracle, and Shai Hulud, Hearts Once Nourished, they all were influential for me, getting me into hardcore. Progression Through Unlearning, Harrison Bergeron, like I can listen to that record over and over again. I love every song. It's so heavy. It's so riff-tastic.
Yes.
and they're nice humans, and it was positive, and oh, they're one of my favorite bands of all time, but influential, like for me making music too. And then last record, okay, this is going to be a little out there, and I love British music. Like I love Brit bands. I love 80s bands like The Verve, or
Mm.
Jesus and Mary Chain, New Order, Cure.
Are you going on the
Love those.
Oasis? Are you gonna go to see Oasis on their reunion?
I'm gonna try to get tickets. It's Saturday morning at 2 a.m. is when I can try to get tickets.
Wait,
Ooh.
what? Like that's
Yeah,
like when they
because they're
open up for
selling them
tickets?
on England time and
Oh,
Pacific Standard Time, so I have to figure out what time I need to get up.
you talking
But
about
I'm gonna try.
Greenwich
I'm in the
Mean
queue.
Time?
Oasis rules. Their first 3 records are awesome. The rest of them, no thanks. But the first 3. So this last one's going to be a left field. They're one of my favorite bands. Fugazi, In on the Kill Taker.
Oh, yes.
That's my favorite Fugazi record.
Why
Maybe
haven't we
not
have
everyone's.
a Fugazi record on either? Man, you've got 3.
And so, yeah, that would be like influential for like wanting to start a band, wanting to be in music. We listened to Offspring and Bad Religion and Pennywise, like all those bands we were listening to. But there was something about Fugazi when I heard them where I was like, "Oh, it's so aggressive and like
Yeah.
pointed, but very smart
Yeah.
and musical."
Yeah. Highbrow.
I love it, right?
Yeah, there is a different. I was actually thinking about this recently, from listening to a band like Fugazi versus some other bands. There are bands where they might be really popular, even beloved by fans, but
Yeah,
those fans are not starting bands because of that band, right?
totally.
Fugazi is one of those bands that not only are they beloved, the people who love them started bands because
Bands.
of them. Whereas, like,
Absolutely.
I think of a band, and this is no shade to this band. I love this band, but when I think of a band like Switchfoot, I mean, you guys are San Diego guys. I
Yeah.
think of a band like Switchfoot. There's not too many people I've heard say I started my band because of Switchfoot. That's no shade. Like, I love Switchfoot. I will absolutely, like, Cullen and I both love Switchfoot, but we don't get a lot of people that would say, "Hey, I started a band because of Switchfoot." Whereas Fugazi, people are starting bands because of Fugazi. There's a huge
Yeah.
difference between that.
No, I agree. I mean, I would say the same thing about Sunny Day Real Estate. You heard Diary, you went out and started a band.
Yeah.
Fugazi, I'm sure I think you could say Bad Religion. People heard Bad Religion for the first time, or the
100%.
Descendants for the first time, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm starting a band." That was so amazing.
Black Flag
Pixies,
the same way. Yep.
Black Flag, yeah.
Yeah.
That,
do you think
that,
it's because that music is considered relatively accessible musically?
Well, it sounds like Switchfoot's not accessible.
Right. But I mean Switchfoot, you hear it on the radio and you at least like the average listener maybe thinks like, oh, there's no way I could ever make something like that. But when you listen to Fugazi, sometimes you hear like some of that like unbridled rage at times where you're like, I think I can maybe like
Oh, I see
pull
where you're
that
saying.
off.
Same thing with like Me Without You. Like you're like, oh, I can sing like Aaron.
Yeah.
yeah. That probably plays a little bit. Like it'd be harder to listen to Dream Theater and go, "I'm going to start a prog metal band," because you don't, right?
no
Like
one-
you don't know how to play guitar.
Rush and be like, I can do that.
Which you could listen to the Descendants and maybe it seems a little more accessible from a music perspective. But then all those bands I think were special because they struck a nerve. They struck a chord with people consistently. And I guess you could say it about every band. I'm sure there's people that heard New Way to Be Human when that came out. They're like, "I'm going to go start a pop surf band," whatever. And I'm not dissing. I'm just saying, like, I'm sure every band has that. But there are those bands that are just like the seminal, man, you hear Snapcase, you want to start a hardcore. You hear Advent of a Miracle, you want to start a Christian hardcore band.
Right.
Even if you're not a Christian, you want to start a Christian hardcore band because they're so ripping.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what's
Well,
funny is all those Christian hardcore bands were what they're actually doing is they were listening to Pantera and they're like, I want to start a Christian hardcore band.
Right.
Yeah, that's 6 feet deep. I love those
right.
dudes. I love brands that they heard Pantera and they're like, I can do this.
And the real
Demon
trick,
Hunter.
the real trick is like to be the band that other bands are wanting, like people are like wanting to start a band because of you, and also you're like commercially very successful. I think honestly, like obviously at a certain time, Smashing Pumpkins was one of those bands,
Yeah.
Sure.
right? Like
Early on.
commercially extremely successful, and they were the band that a lot of people were starting bands because of them. Or like
Yeah.
Nirvana being another example in the 90s. Like they were the band, or maybe I don't know, maybe Foo Fighters kind of had that vibe at some point. I don't remember, but
If
like
you want to take it back to the 60s, I mean, it's Velvet Underground. That's like the original version.
yeah,
of
like
that.
Velvet Underground. Like they were
or the
not only
Stooges.
very commercially,
Or the Stooges, yeah.
yeah, they were, yeah, exactly that. So
With
it's like
glam
it's
rock.
that to me is like, ooh, you are next level success when not only are you the band that other people are wanting to become part of a band or wanting to create a band because of, and also you're very commercially like very successful too. That's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, cool,
Awesome.
great list. Also, you can absolutely hear your list in Beautiful Mistake without a doubt. Like
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
like it's
there.
no like yeah, it's like I mean you can hear Mineral and you can hear Snapcase all in the same song
And
in Beautiful
Fugazi.
Mistake.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, as
that's
you're
my
listening,
list.
yeah, I was gonna say like as you're listening to these off, I'm like, all right, well that makes sense. You were in Beautiful Mistake, and you know we're not we're not throwing for a loop here.
Yeah.
So love it.
Cool.
Josh, what do you wanna plug? Obviously, Furnace Fest is coming up. Any other shows? It sounds like you guys are gonna be playing with
Yeah.
the band that shall be unnamed. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are gonna be playing some shows, including Furnace Fest. But yeah, what do you want to plug?
Yeah, I'll plug those. So on September 21st, on Saturday, September 21st, we are playing the Wiretap Records 10th anniversary show.
Ooh.
So they do a little festival every year. Rob, who runs Wiretap Records, they put out You're Not Broken, I Am. We're getting to play their 10th anniversary show with No Motive and Go Betty Go and Codename Rocky and a bunch of other bands. So it's Punk Fest
And where's this at?
in Irvine, California at Hangar
Irvine,
24.
California.
Yep,
Alright.
free show, all ages. So
Sweet.
we're really excited about that. And then the next night, we are doing a show in Oceanside, California at the Pour House. And so the Pour House is this bar that
well
it's like a
known.
craft beer bar, but on Sundays they do all ages shows. So they kind of clear all the tables and it's an all ages venue. So we are doing an early show on the Sunday, the 22nd, $5 at the door, all ages. Show starts at 4 and it's us. And we are playing
That's so
with
early.
yeah, there's 4 bands. We are playing with the always entertaining The Undertaking ! San
Never heard of
Diego's
them.
finest hardcore band.
Never heard of them. Mason, have you
playing
ever heard
with
of them?
I've never heard of that band in my life.
They
Nope,
are.
they never do
not
podcasts.
entertaining. They're not
Is the-
entertaining whatsoever.
The exclamation point, I mean, it sounds like it really should be a question mark.
It should really be a question mark. You're right.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
Undertaking? So yeah,
Yeah.
because like let's be honest. Nobody sees the Undertaking and says Undertaking like as if they're saying it as a exclamation point. Anytime somebody brings up, you ever heard of the band Undertaking? People say the Undertaking?
Question mark.
Question mark?
And then you're like,
Yeah.
the Beautiful Mistake.
Yeah.
I know them.
So we are doing an actual, it's more of a favor to them, really, because we love them. They're great humans.
God,
They
you guys
are.
are such good people.
We felt like they finally needed to start playing with some heavy bands. So they're playing with
Yes.
us, Citrus Jr., Tigers in Cairo. They're finally playing on a bill with 3 super heavy bands.
Yeah.
No more oh, we get to play with mellow bands and we're the
This ain't the
tough
Wiggles
guys.
Jr., right? Is what you're saying.
Exactly. Amateur hour is over. Welcome to the big leagues. You're playing with some heavy bands now, Undertaking. So
Real
they're going to have to
musicians.
step up their game.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We'll
They
see
keep
how it
saying they
goes.
want to play with better lovers someday. Well, they got to play with some real musicians first.
That's right.
That's right.
Welcome to
If they
the
ever want to
big
become
leagues, boys.
exclamation
Welcome
point.
to the big leagues, motherfucker.
$5 matinees.
That's right.
Yeah, but it is kind of a nod to where we came from. We played VFW halls and
Hell yeah.
community centers, and it was $5 and it was all ages. And so for us, we kind of get a kick out of it. And yeah, tickets aren't $55. Not that I think people should pay $55 to see us play, honestly. But yeah, $5, all ages, Sunday, September 22nd.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome.
Love
That's a deal that you cannot refuse.
No. Because
That's
even if
worth
we
going-
suck,
that's
it's only
worth going after
$5.
for church.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right.
We'll have new merch. We're going to have a new, we did a repress of You're Not Broken on a different color vinyl for Furnace Fest. So we may have them for that show. May
Hell
not
yeah.
have them, but you have to
Did
come to
you,
the show and find out.
Did you do that through Jason Zymet and an original vinyl? Or how?
Nope.
Where'd
We
you
just
do
did
it?
it on our own.
Nice.
Our
Look
buddy
at you,
Rob
Mr.
from Wiretap helped us
DIY.
out.
Okay, awesome.
Love it.
Some
Is
fun
your-
for
is-
Furnace.
Is your merch also available online anywhere?
It will be. We live under an IT or a computer literacy rock that we're not very good at that stuff. So we will have a web store before Furnace Fest.
Awesome.
There we go.
Awesome.
Love it. Josh, anything else you'd like to plug?
I live in the high desert, and I live in the middle of nowhere, and I give tours of areas out here that have been visited by UFOs, have been visited
Ooh.
by, you've heard of Skinwalker Ranch, you've heard of like
Yeah.
Skinwalkers, things like that. So I
Mason
give
loves
high
Mason-
desert tours
Oh my gosh,
of
this
this.
is awesome.
And
I'm all about this.
I take people out and we look for these creatures and we communicate with them.
You do? What
Can
do
I-
you?
can
What
I
do
ask
you? What,
Cal?
when
Can I ask
when you
Cal?
communicate with them, what do you say? Because so here's
You don't
my
speak.
ultimate. Well, how do you communicate if you don't speak to them? You're just like, is it
more-
like a telepathic thing?
Yeah, it's more telepathic. Like they can sense why you're there. And so I have
But you're
good
not like
vibes.
communicating much more beyond like why you're both there. Like
Oh,
there's
no,
there's not
we're
much like
learn-
other information exchanging.
I mean, you have to come to find that out. I can't.
Okay.
If I tell
Excuse me,
you,
What
it's
did you just say?
defeats the purpose. But yeah,
What
we
do you have-
talk.
Wait, what do you have to do to him?
You
But
what on them? You what on them?
again, you have to.
is it
come-
what- What kind of tours are these? This definitely. So I know you guys are doing an all ages show soon, but this does not seem like an all ages tour.
This is not an all ages tour
clearly
because
clearly
the
not.
vibes that you are putting down or you are open to receiving, they vary.
Open
Based
to
on the
receiving
person.
is
Sounds like
very-
it could vary.
That's a very
Based on the
curious,
moment. Based on, there's a lot of variables involved in the high desert. You never know what you're going to get. It could be 90 and sunny. It could be 45 with 80-mile-an-hour winds. But
It could be
we're
Bono in
exploring
the
the
Edge.
unknown with the unknown.
And how you define with could be variable itself. This reminds me, and Cullen, I don't know if you know this, Cullen, but I have one of my fantasies in life is, how a lot of people like they'll ghost hunt, and you see a ghost, and a lot of people are like, oh my god, like they just get scared, right?
Yeah.
And they run away.
What you talking about?
my ultimate fantasy is if I see a ghost, like a real like full body apparition, I want to have sex with it. Like I don't want to run away. Like to me it's like, okay, like if you're going to try to like prove that you exist, the only way you can prove your existence to me is let's have sex. So that's like my ultimate fantasy. And so
You got
I
out that
feel very
vibe.
but I feel very similar about this tour. So I might be like your ultimate customer. Like I am
You're
your
my
ultimate
target
market.
demographic.
You are 100 I'm 100% your like market.
What is your
Because
ghost type? What's your anomaly type?
me are you asking me?
I'm asking you, Mason. Yeah.
I actually at this point I don't even care like as long as the
Are you looking for the
apparition
Tiggle
appears
Bitty
as long as
ghost
the
or what?
apparition appears of age, I don't care who it is.
All right. It's Grandma Wolf.
It's a ghost, Cullen. Would you
What
not
if
have
what
sex
if it's
with any
Grandma
ghost?
Wolf? What are you gonna do?
Okay, if it's not
Still a ghost.
incestuous and also as long as they appear to be of age, then we're good.
I get it.
I like
know
that
what
you
mean.
preface that too. That's
That's
good.
good.
I agree.
That's good. It's
Yeah,
responsible is what that is.
yeah, I just you know, if it was my grandma, like all right, like I'll, there's plenty of other things that I can think of that I'd like to, she could prove her existence to me as a ghostly form rather than having sex with her. But
Yeah, sure.
but anyone else, for the most part, I'm all game. But again, that includes extraterrestrial life as well.
You got
I
to come
don't
to the
care.
high des and take one of my tours.
Yeah. Is ayahuasca involved in this situation?
Could be, could not be, could
Well,
be.
if it could be,
Peyote,
then
Vision
I'm
Quest.
in. Then I'm in.
Yeah.
I want the
I
Aaron
mean-
Rodgers treatment.
Why come to the high desert and trip balls? It's the question
It's
that you
a
have to
great
answer.
question.
What,
That is
what there's a reason why Burning Man exists. There's no
No.
other reason to go there.
Instead of an Aaron Rodgers experience, I want a Jim Morrison experience. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I
Where
mean,
did he die
write
in the high
bad
desert?
poetry and not be that great of a band. That's what you want.
Go listen to Riders on the Storm. Is written about a moment when he was a child riding through the desert and where he saw a Native American man bleeding and also having a spiritual experience himself. And apparently this is all about a trip that he had that was also figurative and literal. So, give me some Jim Morrison experience out there in Joshua Tree and I'm in.
Yeah. If you want the Graham Parsons experience of my tour, we just cremate your body in the middle of the desert and secretly bury it.
Cremated alive?
That's an extra $100.
Only 100? I'm in. I am in.
You know that story,
100%.
right? Where he died and he had
Yes.
asked if the manager came out and burned his body and buried it somewhere without telling anyone.
Yes.
The family's pissed. Everybody's
nuts.
pissed.
It's nuts. Yeah.
There's not too much I wouldn't do for $100, so I get it.
You give me a Diet Dr. Pepper and I'm good. I'll do whatever.
I will say,
I'll play Beautiful Mistake songs for Diet Dr. Pepper.
hot damn. Well, now we're in. You're on the Forrest Gump level there. I think that anytime you're talking about cryptids or extraterrestrials or the afterlife, I think Mason's definitely in. I'm mostly in. Mason might have to convince me a little bit, but let's do it.
I'm in so far that
you're having
I'm
sex with ghosts even. Yeah.
There's more than one members of my body that are in. Josh, you didn't know, you had no idea what you were signing up for, right?
This is amazing. It's progressively gotten better the entire time.
Yeah, better is one way to put it.
And it culminates. Just the end is just so big.
Well, it's not that big, but it's some
It's very climactic.
Climax is a great way to put it, Josh. Climax is
Yeah.
a great way to put it. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let's not edge this on too long. So s- Josh, it's great to chat with you. We're super excited. 5 weeks from now, we're gonna be able to
No.
see you, hang out with you. We'll make sure we give you a big hug, and yeah, we're just
Awesome.
super excited to see Beautiful Mistake. Again, been lifelong fans, so we're just absolutely stoked to see you guys play at least one other time. Who knows
Hell
what's gonna
yes.
happen in the future after Furnace Fest, but yeah, we're just absolutely stoked.
Do you have any songs you want to hear?
I mean,
Like, give me one song that's like, hey,
how about I always forget is it burnt out and broken in? Is that how do you?
burned out and broken in?
I'm
Okay,
building.
I'm just saying that one feels like a little bit more of a rarity that would normally be an unlikely one to be played, and I would be
Sure.
a big fan to hear that one.
I can
I'll
agree with
see what I
Mason on
can
that one
do.
for sure. Yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
That's what I'm here
Obscure
for.
pick off the Edison Clio Beautiful Mistakes.
Honestly, it might be the first. I think it might be the first Beautiful Mistake song I ever heard. Don't ask me why that was, but it was.
I like those songs.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I was a big
Yeah.
fan. So that's my pick. I don't know about Cullen, but that's my pick.
Yeah, I mean, I would
It's-
agree. I mean, obviously, I would like to see. I like to hear the hits as well. I'm building, especially. So,
There we go. Love it.
Cool.
All right, Josh. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. This was awesome. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to chat.
hell yeah.